Hello, my name is Greta Fennell, and welcome to an episode of The Current. This episode features our host, Stephanie Rodriguez, alongside our special guest, UNCW's Senior Class President, Lili-Anne Ogaard. Lili-Anne is a triple major here at UNCW and was crowned Homecoming Queen in 2024. She not only serves as an RA, but serves as a fashion icon on campus as well. And be sure to stick around to the very end for a game of Guess That Comm Theory, where Lili-Anne will watch clips and guess which communication theory it is. We hope you studied.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Current. I'm your host, Stephanie Rodriguez, and today we have another special guest with us, UNCW Senior Class President and 2024 Homecoming Queen, Lili-Anne Ogaard. Lili-Anne is a triple major in Communication Studies, French, and Spanish with a minor in Linguistics. Thank you for being here with us, Lili-Anne. I know our viewers are excited to hear more.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. Tell us more about your role as Senior Class President. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so Senior Class President is a pretty flexible role, I would say. Every Senior Class President has done something a little bit different than the last. We have a few things that are always on our plate, so we run recruitment and elections for the freshman class senators, and we also run elections in the spring. The other big thing that people might be familiar with is the senior class gift. So every year the senior class president works with the student body president, who this year is Skylar Stein, to organize some sort of gift to the school from the senior class. This year we might be doing it a little differently, but that is still a project that I'm actively working on. An example of that actually would be the clock tower was a senior class gift a couple decades ago from a comm studies major. So that's us, y'all. That's what we do.
Us. So is the gift this year like a surprise kind of thing?
Yeah, it's currently in the works, so we don't want to say anything until we know exactly what it's going to look like. But in spring, it should be going public.
Okay. Well, how or when did you decide you wanted to get involved with SGA here at UNCW?
So I decided my sophomore year, and it was not always a part of the plan. Like, I will be so transparent. When I got to college, I tell people that I tripped and fell into student leadership. I was not an involved student in high school. I did theater, and that's about it. And I went to my classes, and I barely listened, to be honest, and I wasn't sure if I was even going to make it to college. I applied to UNCW. I told my mom if I don't make it, I'm not going to school. And some miracle of the universe, I got in, and I came to school thinking I'm gonna take my engineering classes, because that's what my major was at the time. I'm gonna go to sleep, and then in 4 years, hopefully I'm gonna graduate and go on with my life. And my freshman year, actually, there was a couple attacks on marginalized students that were pretty significant. And so at the time, director of the Office of Institutional Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Danielle Roseborough, she got a group of students together to just voice their experiences on campus. And I hadn't known about many of these things, but I did go to a comedy show on campus that was controversial, to say the least. So I went to talk about that. And Dr. Roseborough approached me afterwards and said, I like the way you speak. Do you want to be a part of a smaller group of students meeting about these instances on campus? And I said, okay. And I showed up to that meeting, and I was taking a bunch of notes, and they all elected me to be president of that group. I did not elect myself to be president of that group. And with that, I met Cody Brandon, who at the time was I don't know, actually, I think he was the director of diversity and inclusion for SGA. And then the next year, he was the student body president. And then the next year, I worked with DeAndre Ritchie in my sophomore year, who was at the time, director of DEI for SGA. And he said, hey, I like what you're doing with advocacy on campus. Have you considered being an SGA? And I said, no, I didn't consider being here. And we talked about it more, and it looked a lot like what I was already doing, but with a little bit more organization and the backing of the student government. And so I interviewed, and I got the privilege of serving last year as the director of DEI, and that propelled me into being senior class president this year.
Wow, I didn't even know all that backstory. I mean, like, I feel like everybody here like knows Lili-Anne, but that's crazy. So you're juggling many roles at the moment. How do you keep track of them all? Do you have a system or a schedule and plan to like stay focused?
Yes, so many schedules. I have 2 physical calendars and planners. I have 2 digital calendars, which was not always the case, but I realized very quickly my freshman year that I was going to need to start writing a lot more down because meetings started piling up. But I got in the habit of using my Outlook calendar. I rely on that thing like crazy. And I try to take as many physical notes as possible, otherwise I will forget. But yeah, I mean, it is a somewhat organized system and a whole heck of a lot of organized chaos. Like, I wish I could say that there was one specific magic ingredient, but I really struggle with procrastination. I struggle with organization. So a lot of it is just trying to keep up day to day and trying to write everything down and not miss a meeting.
Yeah. How difficult is it to learn and process multiple languages at a time? You're majoring in communication, French, and Spanish with a minor in linguistics. So any tips or tricks for anyone who's looking to learn a new language, and how do you do it?
Oh, wow. Definitely try is my first thing. I think a lot of people start learning a language and realize, oh shoot, this is hard, but it's going to be. I always tell people, how did you learn your first language? Because you probably started 3 years of babbling and not really making any cohesive conversation, and then another couple years of talking, but again, maybe not necessarily in the most comprehensible way. And then another 5 years of learning how to make the words that you now know how to say into sentences that are digestible to the people around you. That's 10 years before you're really a proficient speaker in your native language. And so give yourself time, because the process of learning a new language is going to follow the same pattern. I was lucky enough to be exposed to a lot of languages growing up. When I was a kid, my mom spoke English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and was learning Arabic. And so I would sit and learn Arabic with her. And then I switched to French when I was 8 years old. And so I've been learning that ever since. And I started learning Spanish in high school. So I've always kind of been around languages, which helps. It really does. I mean, there's a lot of research that language acquisition is helped if you were exposed to multiple languages as a kid. But if you weren't, it's not at all impossible to learn another language. You just have to give yourself time. I would say don't try to learn 2 languages at the same time. Although I already was pretty knowledgeable in French, when I had a semester where I had 2 French classes, 2 Spanish classes, and a communication studies class. And they were like back to back to back. So it was like French, Spanish, French. Oh my gosh, I would not wish that upon my worst enemy. It was so much more difficult to switch than I thought it would be. And most of the time I'd find myself in my Spanish class just kind of being silent, trying to adjust. And by the time my brain was like ready to speak in Spanish, I was going back to French class. So it is definitely not always an easy process, but I do it, and I study linguistics because I love studying languages. I always have. I love studying cultures. When I learned French, I did so through an immersion summer camp where I was surrounded by different French speakers from different parts of the world. And that was probably one of the most positive experiences in my childhood. So, I mean, if you really love the culture and you love the language, just do your best to try to learn why the language is important and how people really communicate in it, not necessarily like the formal school academia grammar, but just try to sit down with it and watch a million things in that language. That's the other thing. That's the actual technique that every multilingual person says. Watch movies, listen to music, talk to the people you know who speak that language, like immerse yourself in it as much as possible.
I love your optimistic view on like learning a new language. It's just like how you did as a kid. It took time, it took practice. Like I've never thought about it that way, but you putting it into perspective is just like, I can do it too. Maybe I need to add a third language.
You should.
So what are your plans post-grad? Are you thinking grad school? Are you thinking travel? Are you thinking like a year off?
Gosh, I would love a year off, but no. I'm applying to law school right now, so hopefully law school. Everyone wish me luck, but the goal is to study a few years in law school and take the bar and become an attorney, and then use the knowledge that I've had advocating on campus and the knowledge that I have through law school to go into policy development and government work to hopefully do some policy reform on some regulations we have in this country that are a bit archaic.
And what's your biggest motivation? Like, what drives you? You have like so much on your plate, but what is the thing that makes you get up in the morning?
Wow, that is a great question. I think for student leaders and general overachievers, mayhaps, that there sometimes is the feeling of getting lost in the movement of it all, you know? And I know a lot of student leaders who wake up and are so busy by 30 minutes after they've woken up that they don't even realize what is keeping them motivated every day. And I say that to say I have definitely struggled with that, where I become so busy that once things calm down, you know, I get a fall break or a spring break, I sit down and I call my mom and I say, what am I doing? Like, where am I going with this? And I love to advocate, and I will never not be an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is the number one thing that keeps me motivated. But more intrinsically than that, I think that, this is gonna be a little corny, but I think that growing up, I grew up really poor, to be honest. I grew up in a really crappy rural town. We didn't have that much money. We were moving from basement to basement. And I think that little girl was not sure how she was gonna get out of that situation, you know? I remember still being a kid going to school with messed up shoes and dirty clothes and whatever, and having other kids who maybe weren't in that same situation make comments about that. And I always ask myself, what am I gonna do to not only get myself out of that situation, but get my family out of that situation? And so when I'm feeling those days where I wake up and I'm not sure what the goal is, I remind myself of that little girl who, like, my number one goal was to change the world. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Maybe I'm gonna be a princess or like own a country or something. But I knew that I wanted to do something that changed anything, that made someone's life better. And I knew I wanted to help my family get out of the situation that we were living in. And what I'm doing right now is working towards that. And so I know it's a little cheesy and it's maybe a little heavy, but I would say the number one thing that keeps me motivated is little me sitting right next to me, asking myself, how did we get here? And looking up to me saying, wow, you are everything that I wanted to grow up to be.
Honestly, I really love that because I'm right there with you. That's also like the one thing that keeps me going, is thinking of like little me who came from nothing, is like, you're gonna stay with nothing or you're gonna make something out of nothing. So I love that. I love that so much.
100%.
Alrighty, interesting stuff, Lili-Anne. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Up next, we're gonna play a game of Guess That Com Theory, where we'll test Lili-Anne's knowledge on communication theory.
We hope you're enjoying the show so far. If you're interested in getting involved in student government or joining a meeting here at UNCW, you can find more information on the UNCW SGA website, social media, and LinkedIn. Now, let's jump into Guess That Com Theory.
Welcome back to our episode of The Current. Thank you for sticking around. Now we're up for a game of Guess That Com Theory, where we'll take popular movies and TV show clips and see if Lili-Anne can guess it right. Ready to test your knowledge?
I am.
All right. So, first we have video number 1.
Bonjour. Je vous attendais pas avant demain? Comment s'est passé le voyage, le nouvel appartement, tout ça?
You lost me, bonjour.
Ah, was told the American coming here spoke French.
So, which theory explains Emily's attempt to manage her and others' face during a cultural conflict? A, face negotiation theory. B, cultivation theory. C, coordinated management theory. Or D, attribution theory.
Well, since you said manage face, I'm gonna have to go with face negotiation theory.
Correct.
Woo.
All right, so now let's cue question number 2.
Oh, not again.
Serena Vanderwoodsen just couldn't leave well enough alone. Since she had to find out the truth about me, I'm going to tell you the truth about everyone. Every gossip bomb I've got is about to drop. And if you've got a problem with that, take it up with her.
So, what theory explains how Gossip Girl influences what issues everyone thinks are most important? A, media dependency theory. B, agenda setting theory. C, uses and gratifications. Or 2, spiral of silence.
Well, the theory that states that the media determines what everyone should think is important is agenda setting theory.
Correct. She knows her stuff, guys. All right, question number 3.
Good stuff. So I'm not worried about it. Not now, Margaret. Let's shake on this. We're gonna make a lot.
Which theory explains how Ken learns new behaviors and attitudes by observing men in the real world? A, cultivation theory. B, gender scheme theory. C, social learning theory. Or D, agenda setting theory.
So the theory that dictates that we learn new behaviors from observing other people around us is social learning theory.
Correct. Now, question number 4.
Dirty little liar. I'm sorry, I can explain. Explain how you forgot to invite us to your party?
Janice, I cannot stop this car. I have a curfew.
You know I couldn't invite you. I had to pretend to be plastic. Buddy, you're not pretending anymore. You're plastic. Cold, shiny, hard plastic.
Which theory is shown when Caddy feels guilty about acting fake with the plastics, even though she knows it's wrong? A, expectancy violations theory. B, relational dialects theory. C, cognitive dissonance theory. Or D, social comparison theory.
I'm gonna have to go with the theory that dictates that we experience anxiety when we have two contrasting opinions taking place, which is cognitive dissonance theory.
Correct. She knows her stuff, guys. She studied for this game. Question 5.
I think it's the right thing to do.
You're breaking up with me? I thought you were proposing.
Proposing? Elle, if I'm gonna be a senator, well, I need to marry a Jackie, not a Marilyn.
So you're breaking up with me because I'm too blonde?
When Elle realizes she can't depend on Warner to define her future and begins pursuing her own path, what communication theory is being illustrated? A, cultivation theory. B, relational dialects theory. C, social learning theory. Or D, cognitive dissonance theory.
Well, one of these theories has to do with autonomy versus, forgetting the other word, but like versus dependency, and that is relational dialectics theory.
Correct. Guys, she's on a streak. On a streak. All right, question number 6.
Okay, you should just know that we don't do this a lot, so this is like a really huge deal.
We want to invite you to have lunch with us every day for the rest of the week.
Oh, it's okay. Coolness. So we'll see you tomorrow.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink.
Which theory explains the plastics wearing pink on Wednesday? A, social penetration theory. B, attribution theory. C, symbolic interactionism. Or D, cognitive dissonance theory.
I'm a little more unsure about it, but I'm going to have to go with the one that dictates that certain things are symbols and we use those symbols to interact with those around us, which is symbolic interactionism.
Correct. Guys, she passed comp theory with an A, with flying
You
colors.
know it.
Flying colors. Question number 7.
I volunteer as tribute.
Which theory
Introducing
explains how Katniss's speech and actions reveal her motives? A, agenda setting theory, D, dramatism, C, expectancy violation theory, or D, elaboration likelihood model?
This one is difficult, but I'm going to go with, this one I'm a little more unsure about, but I think it has to do with how people act in a way that reveals their act, the agent, the agency, the purpose in the scene, which is dramatism.
Correct. Guys, you did not come to play. Question number 8.
Where is my desk?
That is weird.
This is not funny. This is totally unprofessional.
Okay, well, you're the one who lost the desk.
I didn't lose my desk.
Okay, calm down. Where was the last place you saw it?
Okay, who moved my desk?
Which theory explains Dwight's negative reaction to Jim's unexpected prank? A, expectancy violations theory, B, relational dialects theory, C, uncertainty reduction theory, or D, social exchange theory?
Well, there is one theory on that board that is very specific about how people experience anxiety and stress when their expectations for a social situation or a communication are violated, which is expectancy violation theory.
Correct. Guys, I'm learning from her today because I completely forgot these. Number 9.
I told you, Skylar. I warned you for a solid year. You cross me, there will be consequences. What part of that didn't you understand?
You took my child.
Because you need to learn.
You bring her back.
Maybe now you'll listen.
Which theory explains why Walter is upset with his wife for telling their son's secret? Face negotiation theory, cultivation theory, communication privacy management theory, or social penetration theory?
Well, I feel like this one's a little obvious, but the theory on the board that dictates that we have certain information about ourselves that we want to only be communicated with certain people and that we experience stress when that privacy is not maintained is communication privacy management theory.
Correct. Now, last question, number 10.
Well, we've got tickets to see the Bengals at the Pastorella Theater.
In New York?
Yeah,
Sounds potentially not boring.
it's gonna be great actually, and the seats are amazing.
Who are you going with?
My mom and Suki.
You're kidding.
What?
You're going to a concert with your mom.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine doing anything like that with my mom.
Actually, we do stuff like this all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Which theory explains how Lorelai and Rory's relationship show high openness but low conformity? A, relational dialects theory, B, family communication patterns theory, C, social learning theory, or D, symbolic interactionism?
I'm between 2, so I'll try to talk through them a little bit. But with A, relational dialectics theory, that is something where we manage our certain dialectics with people. So things like openness and conformity have some tension, and everyone exists on a certain, spectrum of that. And then family communication patterns theory is, I think, a little less accurate in this instance, but has to do with how families communicate with each other and how that builds communication patterns in the future. But because openness is on the board, I'm going to go with relational dialectics theory. Is that incorrect?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
No, was it family?
But it is family communication patterns theory. It's okay though, you got like 9 out of 10 correct. Don't even worry, that last one wasn't even that big of a deal.
Guys, I apologize. I should have known.
Well, that wraps it up for us. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our episode of The Current, and thank you to our special guest for being here with us today. We'll see you next time.
I'll make sure to study family communication.